Hello, I'm April Davila with Sit Right Here. I'm a novelist and a certified mindfulness instructor, and I help aspiring authors write more and suffer less. Today is First Page Fridays, where we look at the first pages submitted by you, the viewers, and we go over them. What's working, what could be better, what could be stronger, and we all get to learn from this first page that's been submitted. It's generally the first page of a novel, sometimes a short story. We do tend to stick with fiction. If you have a first page that you would like a critique of, you can check out the link below in the description there and send in your first page. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get to it. All right, we're going to start by just reading it through. I haven't read it yet. This is my first read through it. So if I mispronounce or stumble a little bit, be patient with me. And then we will come back up to the top and start editing our way through. A memoir, in plain sight. The crash. Screams of indescribable horror filled the cabin. Hands clenched, armrests in white-knuckled terror. Others gripped loved ones, hearts pounding as the aircraft plunged toward the Atlantic Ocean. Up in the cockpit, the pilots fought desperately to regain control. Air traffic control's voice crackled through the radio, issuing urgent instructions in hopes of guiding the doomed flight back to safety. Inside the cabin, flight attendants rushed through the chaos, their training the only barrier between order and panic. From the galley, the violent clatter of metal clashing, glass shattering, and unsecured equipment crashing echoed down the aisle. Overhead bins burst open, releasing luggage that tumbled with heavy thuds onto the terrified passengers below. This was the nightmare scenario, the one whispered about in crew briefings, buried beneath confidence and routine. The sound of pure mortality hung in the air, shrieks, sobs, whispered prayers. In that instant, every soul on board understood what was coming. Regret and disbelief formed silent pleas. Why did we get on this plane? Why didn't we listen to our gut? Please, dear God, save us. They wouldn't see their families again, would never get to say goodbye. October 16th, 1998, that haunting recording played during flight attendant training, captured forever in the aircraft's black box, a real event shared not for drama but for education, a tool to understand failure and prevent future tragedies. It was meant to prepare us. Instead, it nearly ended everything. That night, back in the hotel room, I collapsed onto the bed, paralyzed. The recording looped in the mind like a walking nightmare. Becoming a flight attendant had once felt like the start of a dream. After hearing that, it felt like a fall from 30,000 feet. This is pretty compelling. All right, it is longer than, hold on, I just want to see what's the word count on this. Okay, so we're closer to 300 words on this. I'm going to do my best to get through it in the time we have. In plain sight. So the memoir, the title is a fun play on words with plain, the crash. Okay, we can run with that. Usually I just keep it to the pages on the page, but this is fine. It gives us some context, and that's a good thing. The first thing that caught my attention was indescribable horror. It is our job as writers to describe it. And you do a really good job. You actually describe the horror quite well. So I would not open with this line. Let's see. I don't feel like it's right to start with hands clenched armrests in white knuckle terror. I guess the other bigger picture question I have is, this is an audio recording. So I wonder, so what I'm drawing from this is that this is what our protagonist, our narrator, is envisioning, right? But I think you need to give us a nod right from the start that it's a recording. How can we do that? What's a creative solution here? I think we just say the sounds of screaming, not screaming. Some sounds of screaming filled the cabin. And then I wonder, and okay, I'm making suggestions based on how I would do it. It's your story, so you have to decide how you want to handle it. But if it were me, I would probably say something like, in my mind, I could see the hands clenched around armrests in white knuckled terror. So, because I think that way you're just kind of giving the hint of you're not actually there. the way this is written right now kind of gives the impression that you're on this plane, which when you tell us like no one will ever, no, they don't survive this, is a little jarring because then it feels more like fiction, like you're narrating something, where actually what you're narrating is hearing this. So I think leaning into that a little bit would minimize the transition from the opening to the, okay, I was listening to this as a recording. Finding ways to do that. Let's look at it. The sounds of screaming filled the cabin. In my mind, I could see the hands. I could see, let's say hands. I could see hands clenched around armrests in white knuckle terror. Others. So I don't know if this is, I guess this is referring to the hands. But it's a little awkward here. So let's see here. I wonder if you could just say, as the aircraft plunged toward the Atlantic. Because again, you're listening to this, so heart's pounding is not going to be on the recording. That would be in your imagination. And this is a tricky one. I'm going to just own that, like, I'm doing things that might be totally wrong for what you're going for. Please feel free to ignore everything I'm saying. These are just ideas. In my mind, I could see hands clenched around armrests, white knuckled terror as the aircraft plunged toward the Atlantic Ocean. Up in the cockpit. So now that you've kind of introduced that it's in my mind, I don't think you need to keep saying that. You've just kind of laid that seed of like, okay, I'm imagining all this. Up in the cockpit, the pilots fought desperately to regain control. Now, this is something that you would be hearing. So that, for me, that's totally landing. Air traffic control's voice crackled through and I love crackled, that's a great word, through the radio, issuing urgent instructions. Again, urgent, great, in hopes of guiding the doomed flight back to safety. And you're telling us right here, like this, they're not going to make it. Just tragic. Oh my God. And again, it speaks to the perspective on this, right? This is something that has happened. You're not in the space, and it's not fiction, and we know that because it's a memoir. Inside the cabin, flight attendants rushed through the chaos, and I think this is important to kind of bring us back from up in the cockpit. Inside the cabin, flight attendants rushed through the chaos, their training the only barrier between order and panic. I like that. From the galley, the violent clatter of metal clashing, glass shattering, and unsecured equipment crashing echoed down the aisle. I like that. This is a great imagery. And again, you're leaning heavily on the audio, which I think is really good for the reveal at the end. From the galley, the violent clatter of metal clashing, glass shattering, and unsecured equipment crashing echoed down the hallway. This is the only part that's a little awkward. Unsecured equipment crashing echoed down. From the galley, the violent clatter of metal clashing, glass shattering, and unsecured equipment crashing echoed down. Oh, I know what it is. It's because these are two words: metal clashing, glass shattering, unsecured equipment crashing. So I wonder if just taking out the unsecured, but that's an important, like something was unsecured and so it's crashing, but it's the cadence that's throwing me off. Metal clashing, glass shattering, and equipment crashing echoed down the aisle. I'm reluctant to cut unsecured. I maybe could be heard echoing down the aisle. From the galley, the violent clatter of metal clashing, glass shattering, and unsecured equipment crashing could be heard echoing down the aisle. I think that allows you to keep this so that you tweak the cadence of it a little bit, but you don't confuse the reader. You get this little bit, it could be heard, kind of clarifies the what's being experienced. Overhead bins burst open, releasing luggage that tumbled with heavy thuds onto the terrified passengers below. I love heavy thuds, again, leaning into the auditory. The word bursting is great, even though bursting has almost a sound to it, like burst. It has, so even though, it would make a noise, like the overhead bins bursting open, releasing luggage that tumbled, and ow. This was the nightmare scenario, the one whispered about in crew briefings, buried beneath confidence and routine. I love this. I love a peek behind the curtain at like professions like a flight attendant. So this idea of like, yeah, I mean, what would that be like to work in a career where like this is always a possibility, like every time you go to work, but it's buried beneath confidence and routine. I just that for me, that draws me right in. I'm very interested in that. The sound of pure mortality hung in the air, shrieks, sobs, whispered prayers. This gets a little hyperbolic for me, the sound of pure mortality. Um, I wonder if I wonder if you could use this. I was going to say to build a little bit on what you had before, but then you come to in that instant, every soul on board understood what was coming. Um, so I think this sentence needs to be about the instant, right? Because this is a little more general. This was the nightmare scenario, the one whispered about in crew briefings, buried beneath confidence and routine. But in this moment, shrieks, sobs, and whispered prayer filled the air. In that instant, or in this instant, it was that because we're in past tense. So I think this sentence needs to be about what is the instant. And I like again the sounds. Um, the whisper buried beneath confidence and routine. um, I'm not sure how to do that. What is the moment? We need to say what the this is the nightmare scenario, the one whispered about in crew briefings, buried beneath confidence and routine. The moment, so maybe my mind goes to like the moment where routine is replaced by shriek, sobs, and whispered prayers. That's not great, but I'm just going to run with it. This was the moment when routine was replaced by, oops, and hold on. This was the moment when routine was replaced by shriek, sobs, and whispered prayer. Hmm. Yeah, that's not perfect, but I think what we're trying to do is say like the comfort has been gone, the illusion of safety has been shattered in this instant, and also beware of like this and this. So here we're this, and then in that instant. So in past tense, this is always a little awkward as a word. Um, but it is, again, there's some artistic choice in there, so I'm reluctant to tinker with it too much. This is the nightmare scenario, the one whispered about in crew briefings, buried beneath confidence and routine. This was the moment when routine was replaced by shriek, sobs, and whispered prayer. And you'd want a different word from routine since we just so when comfort, when the comforting illusion, oh, illusion of safety was replaced by shriek, sobs, and I don't know. Again, you'll have to tinker with that a little bit. And then you could say the instant. So that way you're not switching from this to that. This was the moment when the comforting illusion of safety was replaced by shriek, sobs, and whispered prayers. The instant that every soul on board understood what was coming. Regret and disbelief formed silent pleas. Why did we get on this plane? Why didn't we listen to our gut? Please, dear God, save us. So you already mentioned whispered prayers. Regret and disbelief formed silent pleas. I mean, this feels very believable to me. And again, this is the imagination kind of layering over the audio that we're getting. So I like that. This formed silent please. I think I would leave this as it is. There might be some tweaking you could do. Instead of formed, maybe they combined or they swirled into, or I don't know. That is getting too much into like tinkering with how you as an artist want to phrase it. So I'm going to leave it. They wouldn't see their families again, would never get to say goodbye. That's a great transition into October 16th, 1998, that haunting recording played during flight attendant training, captured forever in the aircraft's black box. Now, this sentence is a little jarring because you're saying, okay, 1998, the haunting recording is playing. in 98 during flight attendant training. That's not when it was captured. So I would say a real event captured, I would move this. A real event captured forever in the aircraft's black box and shared not for drama but for education, a tool to understand failure and prevent future tragedies. It was meant to prepare us. Instead, it nearly ended everything. I would not sum up yet. I would probably let that be. It was meant to prepare us. So even the phrasing of it was meant to prepare us kind of hints at like, but it didn't, right? Like, but it sounds like there's a but there, and that's a good thing. We want there to be that question of like, well, did it? Did it prepare you? Because that's the kind of question that gets people to like turn the page and keep reading. Don't summarize it yet. Don't tell us the answer yet. That night, back in the hotel room, I collapsed onto the bed, paralyzed. The recording looped in my mind, I would say my mind, like a waking nightmare. Becoming a flight attendant had once felt like the start of a dream. After hearing that, it felt like a fall from 30,000 feet. I mean, that's fantastic. I love where this lands. Okay, so the trick with this first page, it is absolutely engaging. And even, I mean, I would hope that the rest of the memoir about like becoming a flight attendant has this an equal sense of drama and stakes and all of this. Even if it doesn't, you are painting a picture of like, this is a possibility. Every time a flight crew goes up in the air, they are risking this happening. It does happen. Excuse me. So I love it as an opening. I think the one thing we're missing is the hold on. The one thing that this kind of opening doesn't really allow for is any hint of who you are yet. So what I would say is get us that as soon as you can, right? Because I think let's just look at this word count. Okay, so you're about 200 words here. And so by the time you actually get to an I, it was meant to prepare us, right? So, but this is like the first ownership of this story. And then here, I collapsed onto the bed. I think if you're going to open with a story that is not at all with you as the protagonist, you need to get us some details about you as quickly as possible. So even like, can you give us a hint of like, I kicked off my high heels. Okay, you're a woman. Or I kicked off my loafers if you're a man. I don't know what men wear for like nice shoes, but that's a guess. Without taking off my makeup. I'm just trying to think like what are ways that you could even like I pulled my long hair into a ponytail or I pushed my long hair off my face or I don't like just start as soon as possible, start to get us a few details about who you are. Because this is very engaging. I definitely would keep reading, but I want to know pretty quickly who you are. I want to know who's going to be narrating this. Who am I on this journey with? And again, this is great. Like back in the hotel room, like you're in a place, you're at a particular time. I know it's 1998. Presumably the same night, October 16th, because this is like they play you that recording that night. You flop onto your bed, paralyzed. I don't know if this is going to be what I thought it was going to be. It's a great setup. Just be aware that you're already like by here, you're already onto the second page and we don't know anything about you. That's okay. But tell us as soon as you can. Get that information in there so that we can start to know you, start to empathize, start to be with you on this journey. But in general, this is like a very compelling first page insofar as life and death stakes. And actually they die. Like they don't come out of it. Like that's really dramatic. And yes, land us there, bring us in with that. And then you'd make this transition of like, okay, that wasn't me. I was listening to it, but it could be me. So in general, this is really solid. Find ways to get us a little more information about you as quickly as you can. And maybe revisit this, do you want to rephrase this? Regret and disbelief formed silent pleas? Because really it would be like the mouths of the people forming the silent pleas. I think you could tinker with that a little bit, but in general, this is solid. So thank you, dear writer, for sharing your first page with us. If this was not your first page and you would like to submit yours and have yours critiqued, check out the link below in the comments and send it in, and maybe next time it will be yours. Happy writing, everybody. I'll see you next time.